Hey guys, how's it going? Red Wizard here. It's been a minute. Don't call it a comeback, I've been here for years. Anyway, this is a new painting video series. With contrast coming out, I thought it would be a good opportunity to knock out several army projects that I've had floating around in the closet for many years. Not that I'm a great painter, but I am an army painter, and I think that's what this paint line is designed for. So we're going to give it a shot. I'm going to record it so you can all laugh at me. Hopefully this will be entertaining and maybe give you some ideas on how to use a contrast paint. We'll see. I don't know. This is a new video series, and this is my first live action video taking for YouTube. So I'm still kind of figuring out the camera setup, how we're going to do the videos. This video is going to be me painting at superhuman speeds in the background while we discuss the contrast paint. But in the future, the rest of the series will probably be normal speed painting with me talking more about what I'm actually doing and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. We'll see how it goes. Maybe throw in the comment section, what you think, or if you have a preference of how we do these videos. The plan is to start off with Beast of Chaos, and then I have 3 or 4 other armies that we're going to try to knock out pretty quickly with the contrast paints. So, now that we've explained our thought process there, let's talk a little bit about what I have discovered so far with the contrast paints. This is the second model that I painted with the contrast paints. The first one I did was a little orky, just to kind of, just when I first got him, I rushed home, put all the contrast out on the table, looked at him, drooled a little bit, fondled myself, then painted the orc really quick. And then I decided, hey, I'm going to do... Actually, I've been waiting to do these videos for a long time. Almost as soon as they introduced contrast paints, I was like, oh man, I've got these 4 armies that I really want to paint, but they're few of them are really large model count that I've been kind of putting off, even though I really want to try out the armies. So this is an opportunity, I thought, to get them knocked out and maybe learn how to use the contrast paints. So that's where we're at. So a few things that I noticed about the contrast paints right away. Number 1, the paints are really bright and vibrant, and most of the colors are pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie, I'm impressed. But some of them do not look anything like they look in the pot on the model. So my suggestion would be to get out the old bits box, get some old arms or legs or faces or cod pieces that you're not going to use, and spray them with whatever primer you prefer, and then go ahead and paint each one of those a different color and label it so you can see what the paint looks like on the models. Because like I said, when you open it and look in it, yeah, you maybe, but it's a lot better to see what it's going to look like on the models for when you're planning out your paint schemes. In planning your paint schemes, I think, is even more important with contrast paint than it is with classic style paint, and we'll get into that here in a minute. The second thing I noticed when I started using them on this particular model, and I think it might just be this particular model because it's a resin model and it's got a lot of kind of weird organic shapes on it, but the way this paint kind of works, in my non-paint scientist opinion, is that it kind of dries up a little bit after it, it pulls out and goes into recesses, but then as it, dries, it shrinks up a little bit. And on this model, it kind of receded off some of the little resin tips and bits and exposed the bare resin again. So that's something to kind of watch out for if you're doing resin models. I washed this one like I normally do with the resin models before I primed it, and still is doing this, so it's kind of a weird deal. So if you're doing resin stuff, kind of watch out. And we'll have some other resin models for the Beast of Chaos army that we're going to paint, so we'll kind of keep an eye out for that in the future videos. Another thing that I would highly recommend is, if you can see here in the video, you see the little paint pot holders that I'm using. I will put the company that I bought these from in the link. I can't remember off the top of my head what they're called, but do it. Buy some. Because you don't want to knock a bottle of contrast over, because you're going to be sad, and we don't want you to be sad. Another thing I noticed is that the lids, Citadel paints, this is a thing I've heard for a long time, is, sometimes they don't close very well. I've never really had that problem with the normal paints. I mean, you just push them down, and for me, they've usually worked pretty well. On these, though, I have noticed that you really have to make sure they're closed, or the back will stay open, and then you're going to dry out your contrast paints, and you're going to be sad again. We're trying to avoid sadness here. Okay? So make sure you snap them close. They're tricky little bastards. They like to be open. I grabbed them by warp lightning and fucking flew across the room everywhere. So already one death, one casualty, one model, one casualty. It's not a good track record. So watch out for that, okay? That gets me to the next, and this might sound like I'm kind of going through the negative stuff, or not negative, but some of the stuff to kind of watch out for first, and then I'll get into how awesome I think the paints are as we progress. But the other thing that you really have to be aware of with these, and you can see that this is what I'm doing right now in the background. Normally, or with the classic style paints, or the paints we're used to using, especially when you're doing base coats, you don't really have to be very careful, because you're going to go back and repaint over a lot of stuff with another color, and it's going to cover up your mistake. If you just slop on your base coats, which is fine. That's what I do. That's what most people do, I think. You just go back when you clean up, when you paint whatever, the backpack or the cod piece or whatever, you're going to, cover up those little splotches or whatever. You can't do that with contrast, because it will show through. Even if it's a darker color, that it's going to go over it, you're still going to be able to see that other paint. So you're going to have to go back with your the base paint of your whatever spray you used, and kind of touch up those little spots before you put the next color on, or before you reapply the color you used or whatever. So you have to be a little bit more careful with this stuff. So you can't just slop on the base coat. I put that green on the wing, and I was like, nah, it's not gonna work. We'll see what awesome choice I made later in the video. So yeah, overall though, I was pretty impressed with the contrast paints. I think that they definitely you combine at least 2 steps, maybe 2 or 3 steps into just one coat. So it's pretty awesome. Another thing that you kind of want to keep in mind with these paints are that you kind of want to go backwards from light to dark, whereas we normally go darker then lighten up, or most people do, I think. Excuse me. With these guys, you want to go with the lightest paint. And then if you want to blend or do any little effects and stuff, you want to put the darker paints over the lighter paints, because the lighter paint is not going to show on the darker paint. So at some point I do some little striping on the snake. I don't know if I lost a few of these little clips that I put together to make this first video, so I don't know if the snake striping video made it into here, but you can see it at the end what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's a cool effect, but you just have to remember that if you're going to do a color with some other effects going on, you want to start with the lighter ones first, and then come back with the darker ones over top of it. So yeah, but like I said, overall I was pretty impressed. The colors are really bright and vibrant. I mean, I picked kind of the brighter, vibrant colors for this model, but overall the whole range is pretty crazy. So for the rest of the videos, like I said, we're going to change up the style of the video. Probably I think I'm going to do hey, we're going to paint the the goat balls first, and I'll show you all how to paint the goat balls, and we'll talk about why we made the color choices on the goat balls that we wanted to do. And then we'll go to the next thing, kind of more like a traditional painting video. This one was just kind of like trying to figure out the setup and what we were going to do here, and talking about the paints more in a general sense. But the plan is to kind of make a shorter video on each unit type. So we'll have one on gore, one on Besta Gore, and whatever kind of goats we throw in the army. And then we'll kind of go from there after this first army and see if we want to make any changes. But I know for sure that I have 4, including this one, that I already have queued up and assembled and partially primed with the new fantastic Gray Seer and or Wraithbone primer. So I used Wraithbone on this one because we're going for kind of a warmer color. But yeah, I'm impressed. I mean, I pretty much, before the paints came out though, I was pretty positive, so they would have to suck for me to be like, oh no, God, ugh. The only thing, like I said, the only thing that I was kind of surprised by so far is the weird, like, drying up and leaving stuff exposed again. But I think that's just the Cockatrice. He's just a weird dude, man. Another thing that I'll mention real quickly here is that, like I said, this is going to be 90% contrast. I did do a little bit of dry brushing. That's what you can see kind of going on in the background here. After I used the contrast, there were some highlights, but I just kind of wanted to pop it up a little bit more. So I went over a few of the little areas with the dry brush paint. So yeah, we'll wrap this one up. I'll leave you here with a little zoom in on Marv, the Cockatrice. It's the second prettiest cock I've seen today. And yeah, we'll be back pretty soon with the next unit and more contrast goodness. So I'll see you guys later. Peace out.